Today's episode of The Walk Show is brought to you in part by Jam Spots. Established in 1989, that's over 30 years, Jam Spots has provided safe and accessible spaces for musicians to create and collaborate. They have hourly, weekly, and monthly rentals to suit your needs. And here's the thing, these rooms rent out at artist-friendly rates. Cause let's face it, we can't all be John Bon Jovi. The best part about Jam Spots is its rich history in the Guelph music scene. It truly is a big part of the local scene and even has a music community within itself. And I should know, almost every band I've ever been a part of has had a room with Jam Spots. That's a ton of rehearsals, photo shoots, and even a music video we shot there with Arise and Ruin. If you're looking for a space within our music community, check out jamspots.com. That's JAMSPOTS.com. Jam Spots. Make some noise! Howdy, folks. Welcome to The Walk Show, podcasting on all major platforms and broadcasting on Hypernova Radio. Thank you for listening. Be sure to follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Blue Sky. And if you want to support the show with your dollars, you can subscribe over on Patreon for $5 a month. I'm Derek Prince-Cox, and I hope you're all keeping well. Happy Canada Day to my fellow Canadians, and happy July 4th to my American friends. I can't believe we're into July already. I hope everyone's keeping cool this summer. I had a gig with Apricity in Toronto yesterday, and I got caught in the rain going to pay for parking, and I've never been so happy to get rained on. I run hot on regular days, but this heat wave has just been killing me. Speaking of the gig, I gotta send a big thanks to my friends at Dropout Entertainment for having us out to the 5th Canadian Independent Music Video Awards. And a shout out to fellow performers Xochi, Queens and Kings, and Harley Olivia. Also great to see some friends out there. Peter, John, DeVere, and Awesome Jim. Love you guys. I reached out to you on the Walk Show socials to ask you how you celebrated Canada Day. And here's what you had to say.
Now it's time to check that mail. I'm gonna check that mail good. Yeah, check that mail.
Only one today, but it comes from the mighty Will Noseworthy of Band Boost. Hey, brother. Will says, by coddling my terrified dog and watching Canadian Bacon. Yeah, that sounds familiar, dude. Mackenzie and I definitely had to keep Otis calm. And I feel his pain because I hate fireworks too. And you'd think being a drummer, loud cracks and pops wouldn't bother me all that much. But if I'm being perfectly honest, apparently when I was a baby, we had this crazy babysitter that would pop balloons around me. And it must have traumatized me because I've always been kind of messed up around fireworks. Kind of weird, I know, but, you'll always get the truth from me. And sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. But for Canada Day, yeah, we didn't really do a whole hell of a lot. We just got Roku, so we've been able to watch Netflix again, and we've just been lounging, just enjoying that. So I wish I had a cooler answer, but that's pretty much it. As always, thank you so much for your participation. If you aren't writing in and you want to get in on the action, when you see a listener question pop up on the Walk Show socials, leave your answer in the comments or email them to thewalkshow@gmail.com. On that note, let's do today's Double Feature Preacher.
The Double Feature Preacher is brought to you by Planet Bean Coffee.
Woo, that is a tasty f***ing brew.
And by The Walk Show.
Today's music feature is Ghost, the brand new single from Make Fire. Make Fire is an American rock band featuring my friend and absolute shredder, Mr. Max Carrillo. Side note, Max was on episode 181 of the podcast. Ghost dropped June 27th along with a music video. This song is perfectly produced and perfectly written. I'd be very surprised if Ghost doesn't launch Make Fire to the next level. If you followed this band from day one, though, you know they're destined for greatness. Better get a concert ticket before tickets go way up in price. You can support Make Fire by streaming any of their content, and be sure to give them a follow on the socials. Today's Planet Bean feature is their Guelph Griffin's Special Blend. This is an excellent medium blend grown by indigenous women in Peru and Sumatra. A portion of the proceeds go towards supporting Guelph Griffin's women's athletic scholarships, a great cup of coffee, and a great cause. Planet Bean Coffee is Guelph's coffee company, having roasted fair trade and organic coffee since 1997. Check out what they're up to, get a list of locations and a list of vendors at planetbeancoffee.com. Most importantly, support Planet Bean with your dollars. You'll be glad you did. Oh, and when you do, if you want to help out the Walk Show, please let them know that I sent you.
Stick around to the end of the podcast to hear the full song from today's double feature preacher artist.
Speaking of friends who are absolute shredders, for this episode I had a conversation with Koi Getson of Faulty Rivals. I met Koi in Kitchener when our bands both opened for the Dead Daisies. He ended up playing guitar with us for a while after that. Fantastic dude and a fantastic multi-instrumentalist. We had a great chat and I hope you dig it. So let's get into it. And we are rolling here today with Koi Getson of Faulty Rivals. Thanks so much for making time for the show, dude.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me. It's great to be here.
Hey, that's awesome. And how you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. It's been pretty busy, you know, but I mean, it's all doing well at least, right? So that's good.
So busy, but good busy.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. So lots of work and all that stuff, and of course, music and family. You know, keeps me busy.
Yeah, well, no doubt, man. I mean, the family aspect, I don't know how fathers and mothers do it with the whole music thing. I love the fact that there are people like you out there doing both. And I love when, you know, like a lot of my musician friends that have kids, they fall into two camps. There's the ones that want to kind of church and state it. They don't really want to mix the two. And then there are the people that involve their kids and all that stuff. And I know for me, like if I was a kid, I would love that. Like if my dad took me to band practice or even like a concert or a recital or something, I would think that was the coolest.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's definitely the plan when our daughter gets a little older. She's a little young right now, but we've been able to include her in some things. Like she'll come out to like the recitals for our students. Like we'll like the Sherwood Music has recitals for some of the students who wish to perform, and we'll bring our daughter to those, and she'll you know, she likes to see it, you know, all the other kids play and stuff. So we've started to, but hopefully we can do even more of it as she grows older.
That's cool. And you know, as I was saying that, I'm kind of wondering like if it's like a grass is green on the other side thing. Like it's, you know, if you do bring them up with music, they'll be like, oh, that old thing, you know, like I wish my parents were like fuddy-duddies, you know?
Yeah. You never know. It's kind of, you know, you never know how it's gonna end up going for them. Are they going to embrace it or are they going to reject it?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think it's cool that you're involving her in all that stuff, right? Like it's I think that's the winning strategy, personally.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So to the listeners, I met Koi through Apricity, and our bands played a show together in Kitchener with the Dead Daisies and Harmonies. And we might have had the shortest sets in live show history that night, but we got to bond over that. And Koi ended up playing a bunch of shows on guitar with me for Apricity. your band on the bill for that night, it was listed under like as your solo project, right?
Yeah, that night we were playing. So during that year, I was doing it just under my own name, as like a solo project, just because like there was a bit of uncertainty at the time of what I was going to be doing with Faulty Rivals. There was some lineup changes happening at that point. I was feeling a bit of a disconnect from some of the older music, I guess. So I kind of decided to, well, let's put it on hold, and I'm just going to perform under my own name with just some new songs, and all that, just to kind of scope it out, see how it works out and stuff like that. But then as I kind of got playing with those guys more, and we started to really get comfortable with those new songs and stuff, kind of started to have second thoughts about just bringing it back, just bringing that lineup and all that back as Faulty Rivals, and just kind of moving forward with that. So that ended up being the decision ultimately.
That's cool. And I find, yeah, like if you have the kind of moniker behind it, I don't know, it creates, and this might just be totally in my head, but it creates this sort of barrier between, like me, Derek Prince-Cox, and like this material. That way, if like in 2 years I think it's the corniest shit ever, I can just be like, yeah, but that wasn't me,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something kind of comforting I find about that. Is that just me, or do you find the same?
Yeah, I definitely started to find that after a while. Agree, because I had never done like a solo kind of project right under my own name, and I will admit there was a part of it that felt a bit weird having just my own name on posters and stuff like that. In a way, it was cool, but it also kind of like it almost felt like it was a bit too close in a way, So it's like at least having like a band name kind of thing, right? I found was like, yeah, just having a little bit of that distance was kind of nice. And the other thing too is like, I do like the idea of being able to play different genres and all that stuff, right? But if you do it under your own name, I felt like it was going to pigeonhole me into being specifically that genre, right?
That's
Whereas
fair.
Whereas if I do it with a band name, then my own name can still be tied to various other projects.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually. And just, yeah, even just for branding purposes, because you do session work and you're an instructor and all that stuff. So, you wouldn't, yeah, exactly, want to pigeonhole yourself as like Koi, the drum teacher, as like the guy that plays like, deathcore or whatever it is,
Yes, exactly. Right. So that's exactly it too. Right. So leaves me open to kind of keep doing other things too.
Yeah, that's cool. So it's all the same dudes between those two projects?
Yeah, so it was just the same guys, right? So they kind of came together as kind of like a way of performing the music live, because I had recorded a lot of the music by myself. Just, part of it was, I had just written the songs and, knew how I wanted them to sound. Part of it was also just that tracking had started during the COVID pandemic, where it was a bit hard to, get together with people. So basically then I got those guys together. Our bass player, Peter, I had actually already been playing with in Faulty Rivals. So basically, and I just really enjoyed working with him because he's a great musician, fantastic to work with. So I got him back, to play with me again. We had our friend Eric come in on drums. Again, a great drummer, and another great guy to work with, all that. And then we had Bennett, who's actually one of the guitar players in Raider, and he joins us as a live guitar player. And again, another great guy to work with, solid guitar player. So we just kind of, the four of us got brought together to start playing some shows together, and yeah, it's kind of how that worked out.
That rules, man. And yeah, I guess you got to be pretty top shelf if you play in Raider, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Like you got to be tight for that kind of material. So
yeah, that band is unreal.
Mm-hmm.
So your drummer, and I'm sorry, I already forget his name. Did you say it was Eric?
His name's Eric. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He did play that Hub show, right?
He did play that.
Yes, because I remember that's the guy I kind of bonded with when he got off stage. I was like, "Great set, man! Like it was super short, but but you guys were awesome." And we kind of just like, as you do backstage, kind of just like, yeah, bloody set time, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And not throwing shade on the air or anything, but hey, with any job, behind the scenes, in the lunchroom or whatever, you're gonna maybe talk a little smack,
Yeah, and it's natural, right? Like, just sometimes you gotta get some things off your chest. It's not that you want to cause harm or anything like that. It was just like you said, any kind of job, there's gonna be things that kind of get under your skin a little bit. You just gotta vent them out, right?
Yeah, even the greatest job in the world, which is playing music, right?
Exactly, that's exactly it.
So. Yeah, great drummer too, man. Like it's it's one of those things where obviously as a drummer, that's the first thing I'm looking out for when I'm watching a band, particularly if I'm side stage or backstage, where I can, get a good look at their, technique and their posture and, whether they're playing the double kick, all that good stuff, right? But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, great drummer, man.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's definitely a good drummer for sure, and he does. He's actually a drumline instructor as well, so he's definitely well versed in all the stick technique and all that stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm super jealous with that stuff. I tried to get into stick tricks a little bit, like when I was touring back in the day. I think there was a while where I was pulling off some flips and stuff like that, but I don't know. I'm not like for or super against it or anything like that. I just sort of like fell out of it, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know why.
That's fair. Yeah. It's not for everybody, right? It's one of those things where some people can do it well and pull it off, and sometimes it's, I personally can't do it, like it's just, I find it messes with my concentration, while I'm doing. But, I have a friend, my friend Phil, on the other hand, he can do all the stick tricks while he's playing, no problem, right? So it all depends on the person.
Yeah, like it's super cool, man. I don't know. I think I have to just accept the fact that I'm a very boring drummer to watch. I think for a number of years I tried really hard to kind of up the live show. And it just sort of is what it is. I'm very, very focused on like efficiency of motion and, posture and technique and grip and all that kind of stuff. So I just feel like I don't want to say I'm in my head too much, but I'm definitely in my zone, I guess, when I know I'm playing well, because I'm sort of in this just weird autopilot zone.
Yes. Oh, totally. But I will say though, you are like a super tight drummer, and when you're performing live, like you saying you're in the zone, it's like you can definitely tell, because everything is just on point when you play. So definitely kudos to you on that.
Oh, dude, hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I promise I wasn't fishing. But that being said, I will take it, man.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I always had a great time playing with you, man. And I'm trying to think, so that Hub show, I think we had Trick Vilbar on guitar that night, but then I want to say you and Trick played together for an Apricity set, right? Wasn't that in Hamilton?
Yeah, that was in Hamilton. Was that was it the Casbah?
It was, yeah, totally.
Yeah. We were playing with Calling All Captains.
That's right.
I believe. Yes. Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and that's kind of, that was kind of cool too, to be able to play with him and meet him and stuff, and because we had never played together outside of that. So.
Dude, that was the dream team, man. I was so awesome to get to play with you and Trick for the same set.
Yeah,
dude, you guys are both such badass guitar players, and the thing that I love about both of you guys, it's obviously technique. I mean, you guys both have that in spades, but it's the style, right? It's it's always, to me, it's been not necessarily what you can play, but like what you choose to play or how you play, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate that. Yeah. So, but I do agree with you on that too, right? It's definitely about, how you play it and what you choose to do, not what can you physically do.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's always been something really cool about the kind of player where like you can tell they're not putting all the cards on the table. They have that ace up their sleeve, and I'm
Mhm.
not quite sure how. It's not like they do anything in particular that gives off that vibe, but you just pick it up. Like you can tell they're not struggling with the material, even the challenging parts. They're just getting through it. So
Mhm.
you can tell like if they really wanted to put on the afterburners, there's room to do so.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's so cool.
Mhm.
Actually, Apricity is kind of a through line for this episode because, we're going to spin a Faulty Rivals track at the end. We're also going to spin a new Make Fire track, and Make Fire includes Max Carrillo, who
Mhm.
played guitar with us as well. And yeah, we all got to hang out in LA last time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. No, it was great meeting Max as well, and he's definitely killer guitar player, up to some great things. So that was cool meeting him too.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy how big the the Apricity camp is, but everyone that seems to come in is just like super talented, man. So it's I don't know. It just kind of feels like, and no matter what or where, the Apricity live band is at, like it just seems like, kind of just feels like the family gets bigger.
Oh yeah, exactly. And that was something that I definitely appreciated about, or about being a part of Apricity, was just that, yeah, I got to meet a lot of fantastic musicians and play with fantastic musicians, and it's something I'll always be kind of grateful with that, is that those kind of experiences, I think, definitely helped me grow as a musician. So it was definitely, great to be a part of that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Like I love how big the tent is, and the fact that like we got to play together, and I assume you and I will play together in some project down the road, or at least I hope so. That would be
Oh,
super rad. But that's sort
of
of the
course.
beauty, is like no matter what happens, like there's still lots of time left.
Yeah, definitely. Of course. Yeah. So definitely would love to continue, place on some other project with you at some point. Definitely.
Dude, I love it, man. And especially nowadays, and I don't know, tell me if I'm just in my own head here, but it seems like having the backup players and the list of guys you can call to do the gig or, bring out to the studio, like there's more of an independent mindset to musicianship nowadays. Whereas I feel like back in the day, Metallica was the Four Horsemen and, thou shalt not mess with the lineup, even though they did. But, there was that. Like I remember back in the day in Arise, it was like there was some talks, because that wasn't the first time playing with you where I sprained my ankle and had to play drums. I did that on tour, and there was talk of like a replacement, and I was like, oh, I'll be goddamned if I'm gonna have somebody step in and blah blah blah. Um, and it was all just total ego, man. Like it's yeah, just one of those things where nowadays I'd be happy to have somebody step in, and I feel like that's not just me. I feel like now everybody sort of has this mentality of like, yeah, of course the show must go on. If drummer A can't come out, then we'll call drummer B.
Hmm. Yeah. I think I'd agree, like I think definitely there is more openness to having other people come in and just, fill in for a gig and stuff like that. Maybe there's just like less egos tied to it, and maybe that's kind of, you know, a mindset shift that's happened in the last little while. I don't really know, but I think people are more open to that sort of idea now. Like, I mean, even when I think back to when I was first playing in bands, I think even then there was a bit more of that kind of like protectiveness over your role. Um, Now, one thing I do think that could be part of it, not 100% sure, but I think that the almost like the model for how a band works has changed a lot in more of the past few years or so, right? Like you start seeing a lot more bands where it's like, okay, there's like one guy who basically kind of like writes everything, and they're kind of like the boss. Maybe two guys, but one or two guys are like kind of the people that do everything in the band, and then the other guys are kind of like help perform it live. They perform the parts, but they're not necessarily creative contributors or anything like that. So could be, because of that sort of new dynamic that kind of comes to bands, that people are a little more open to, like, having somebody else fill in for them, because that they're not as tied to that role because of that. I mean, could be wrong, but I think like that could be it as well.
Oh, dude, you have to be onto something there for sure. Because you're absolutely right. Yeah, so many bands have like one, maybe two guys. Well, and I mean, even like, in the Beatles, there was, there was Paul and John, I guess. Ringo wrote the one song about the fucking octopus. Nobody cares about that. But but I guess, a lot of bands, you have, like one or two major creative forces, and everyone else kind of plays their role, hopefully. Sometimes you get a lot of egos clashing. But I wonder if some of this stuff, because you're right, the recent sort of, just the governing philosophy of bands, I guess, has changed in terms of having fill-ins and stuff like that. I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that everybody has a DAW now. Like, technology is so much greater, and you're more apt to have one songwriter, because it literally would be one person sitting in front of their digital audio workstation.
I think that's a fair point for sure. Because it's so much easier now to be able to just get a full band demo from one person, right? Like, cause you say, if you, for example, like you're a guitar player, well, you can record your guitar, you could record some sort of bass line probably, right? And then a lot of people will just kind of program a drum loop to kind of go underneath it, until they can get an actual drummer to perform the parts, right? So by that point, you could throw down some keys or some vocals, and then you've pretty much gotten the full song written, right?
Yeah. And I'm not trying to put us drummers out of work, but sometimes a loop is all you need, if we're being perfectly honest, right? Like, I feel like most people listening to the radio or, streaming whatever on Spotify, they're not going like, oh, that drum beat is so complex and dynamic. They're kind of just going, I like this beat, or I don't like this beat.
Yeah. No, and that's fair, right? So I think, and that obviously all depends on the style too,
Yeah.
What the artist is looking for.
So, with your project, like, you're a multi-instrumentalist, and you're good at everything, so far as I can tell anyway. Like, do you have a hard time kind of handing the reins over to the other guys?
I'd say it's overall not too bad, right? I think it's because I went into it with the mentality of, these guys aren't going to play it the exact same way that I did, and I'm not going to expect that of them, right? The idea is that I like the idea that you should be able to let the musicians that you work with breathe and like let them bring in like their own flavor into things, right? So it's like, okay, I did what I wanted for the recording, but while they're playing with me, they have that freedom to do what they see fit, right? As long as it still kind of resembles the song, but I'm not going to be like, saying to Eric, like, oh, that drum fill in the second verse, is not quite like the 100%. Like, I'm not doing things like that. It's like, okay, is the gist of the song there? Yeah. Okay. Well, then, you can do what you wish with that, right? So that's kind of my thing with it, especially for playing live, because you never know how things that you do in the studio are necessarily going to translate live, and sometimes you do just have to change them in order to make sure that it still sounds just as full live, right? That's fair.
Yeah, and sometimes people will surprise you. So I know, first of all, I'll say you're way nicer than I am. I had a project that I was writing a predominant, I was a predominant writer in, and, again, I played guitar and sang in this band, but being primarily a drummer, I was all over these drummers, and in retrospect, I almost kind of feel bad. But the other thing is, like, it was sort of a revolving door, so it was like you couldn't always get that consistency, drummer to drummer, or bass player to bass player.
Yeah.
And that was tricky, man, because being somebody who kind of played it all, I had it in my head how I wanted it, and I don't know. It's not always easy to give up that control. So my hat's off to you, man. Like for anybody that can do that and still end up with a product that's cool. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely like one of those things are finding the balance between what represents the song, but then still what lets them still have their spin on it, Like I think it comes down to how much or what they wanting to do, how much does that deviate from the recording, right? So if it's like 80% there, pretty like 80% similar or something, like for me, like that's good enough, right? But if they completely change the beat or something to something totally different, then it's like, well, now that's kind of throwing me off, because that's not the groove that I intended, and then I can't perform my parts now properly because of that, right? So it's like I think it's kind of knowing where the line is, on how much you want things changed or are varied, versus what you want to remain consistent.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because, as we're having this conversation, I'm kind of realizing, I'm a bit hypocritical about this because as a session drummer, I've been lucky to work with some people that do want me to kind of put my mark on it. One of them being Apricity. And, I'm really lucky in that regard. I guess that being said, though, I would be more than happy to play things note for note if that was what was called for,
Yeah, exactly. And I'd say I'm in like the same boat too, like I'd say that was another thing I was grateful for with working with Apricity is that I was allowed to kind of put my own spin on things. I was allowed to do my own like guitar solos and stuff like that, but it all depends on what the artist wants ultimately. If they're like, no, like this is very specifically recorded for a reason and we just want you to play the parts exactly as is, like I do that as well, right? Because it's their vision at the end of the day.
Right. And well, I mean, it's just something you have to not only be able to do, but be happy doing if you're going to be a session guy, right? Because even if the artist is fine with you putting your stank on it, maybe the producer won't be, right? And the producer will be like, if you're in a studio situation, they'll be like, well, just shut the hell up and play 2 and 4, and that's it, Like, okay, well, I can't argue with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so yeah, always have to be mindful of the hierarchy, especially in the studio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So are you writing absolutely everything for Faulty Rivals?
So for this record that's coming out in the next, I don't know, 6 months or so. I don't have an exact release date yet, but for that album, I did everything myself, right? So I played drums, guitar, bass, sang on it. I did program some keyboard parts, but they're kind of lower in the mix. So for those particular songs, I did. Now moving forward, I would like to have the other guys play on the stuff and put their spin on it, and have them included in that process. But they've also said to me, like they understand that, sometimes I do have a specific vision for what I want, and they're not necessarily opposed that if I have a song that I have like a specific thing that I already have prepared that I could just do it as well. So I'm also grateful for their cooperation and understanding around that sort of thing too.
Yeah, that is cool actually. It's because you're not always gonna find that. You might find people that insist on having it their way or putting their spin on it. Where you have the guys like us that could kind of go either way. But in a supportive role, let's say, but we're also people that write music of our own, and sometimes you do have a vision. So yeah, it's interesting trying to link up with the right people, because there are so many different people out there with different influences and just different governing philosophies, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. So it's it can definitely be tricky, but I am grateful for the guys that I'm currently working with for sure.
Awesome. For anyone out there in listener land that has not heard Faulty Rivals, how would you just describe your sound overall?
I would say, especially with the newer songs that are going to be coming out, it's kind of like towing the line between rock and metal, right? Or almost like metal influenced rock, I guess. So I'd say if I were to kind of talk about bands that are similar to it, right? Bands like Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, even some like Megadeth and Metallica, like because even some of their stuff, especially in the '90s, was almost more like rock rather than just like intense thrash.
Absolutely, yeah. Which was a great era of Megadeth and Metallica, by the way.
Yeah, oh for sure. There's definitely like those one of those '90s Megadeth albums. I definitely really came to love. So bands like that, I would say are a good comparison. And then we do have some more like thrashier sections in songs. And then we do have a bit of a prog influence as well, right? Like some unconventional kind of ideas that happen in certain songs or stuff like that. So even bands like Porcupine Tree,
Nice.
kind of come through a bit, right? Because they were a big influence for me. So that's kind of how I would describe it. A lot of our older material, definitely more on the grunge side of things. Like like that kind of Alice in Chains kind of vibes, or maybe a bit of like Nirvana or Smashing Pumpkins or something like that. But the newer stuff, I'd say, definitely tried to incorporate a bit more of my metal influences into it. So
it's such a cool mix, man. I love it. Well, I mean, it's very 90s, but not in the way that most people think when they think 90s, because I think people immediately go to like Nirvana or, Alice in Chains when they think 90s, and it certainly has that element to it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It has that, Megadeth, like Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings kind of like vibe to it as well, right? Or at least based on the track that I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it felt, very Alice in Chains, but with that sort of, additional element, I guess, of the more metal stuff, but all in a very 90s way, I guess.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that, right? Because I'd say that was the kind of the overall vibe that, I was going for with this, with this song and then this album overall, and definitely think that, some of the guys I work with, like Alex Snape and Chris Rowan, definitely helped get that across too, right, in the production.
That's awesome. And yeah, big shout out to Snape and Chris Rowan. Yeah, those guys are excellent and really great producers, really great dudes, and also great musicians. So I find like, a lot of the best producers, particularly, maybe not mix engineers, but best producers come from good bands, and they're good songwriters, good players.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's largely due that they also work with that sort of stuff too, right? So they get it, in that kind of songwriting perspective, right? So yeah, definitely big shout out to those two guys for sure.
Awesome. What I should do at this point is take the quick commercial break, show some love to the sponsors, but Koi and I will be right back right after this. Today's episode of The Walk Show is brought to you in part by Rock Sparrow. Rock Sparrow brings artists and brands to life through quality merchandise. They help entrepreneurs, artists, and brands with online merch solutions, taking the guesswork out of merchandising your brand by managing your every need, and all with real people. Speaking of real people, I've known the creators of Rock Sparrow for years, and I can tell you firsthand, these people genuinely care about what they do for their clients and their community. There's even a store there set up for The Walk Show. Check out what they're up to at rocksparrow.ca. If you want to join up like I did, send them an email at info@rocksparrow.ca. And if you want to check out my Rock Sparrow merch, it's at The Walk Show. That's WOK.rocksparrow.ca. Again, that's thewalkshow.rocksparrow.ca. In any case, if you want to help out The Walk Show, please let them know that I sent you. Hey, business owners, wouldn't it be cool if I was taking this time to talk about your product or service? I've enjoyed building relationships with some very cool companies since I started this thing, and I am looking to expand the Walk Show family. I work with some great sponsors, and I've sponsored events through the podcast, so I do understand how valuable time and resources can be. If you have any interest or questions about working with the show, hit me up at thewalkshow@gmail.com. Again, that's thewalkshow, WOK, @gmail.com. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Now let's get back to the show. And we're back, and yeah, I can't stop riffing on the 90s, sort of in general, but particularly in this conversation, because, well, your music just sort of encapsulates, like, so many 90s references, because, you know, we talked about the Megadeth sort of rock era, Metallica rock era, we talked about the grunge, but the 90s was such a interesting decade. I mean, you also had, like, stuff like White Zombie that was considered sort of metal, but also very industrial, and then you had a lot of electronic music like Fatboy Slim and Chemical Brothers and stuff that was really influencing a lot of that rock stuff too. Like you'd still hear that stuff on 102.1 next to like Stone Temple Pilots and Alice in Chains, right? It was just, I don't know, everything sort of blended together in a very weird way. And I don't know that I've seen that since, although I'm totally just riffing off the top of my head. So maybe we have seen it since. If I'm way off out there, listeners, send your hate mail to thewalkshow@gmail.com. But Koi, I just wanted to get your take on all that, just because like you're obviously a fan of 90s music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd say you make some fair points there for sure. Yeah. Like, I mean, I think that the 90s was cool in that you did see an evolution in all the different kind of subgenres within, like, you know, rock and pop kind of music, right? You know, and you did even see the fusing of certain genres together, you know, like, I mean, that's where a lot of like alternative metal and new metal kind of came, you know, around that time period, you know, and I mean, yeah, I would say I definitely, like, you know, agree with you on that. You know, it was definitely a cool time period for music. And, you know, I mean, I kind of liked the thing that I liked about some of the more grunge era stuff is that it was almost very opposite of the 80s in terms of like the style mentality, right? Like it was, the 80s was very like big and eccentric, and the 90s became almost more like down to earth in a way, you know? And, you know, I thought that was kind of a cool contrast of the two time periods, right?
Yeah, very stripped down in terms of production. Like even a lot of the electronic music had like this kind of dirty undertone to it, as opposed to the sheen that was on everything in the 80s, you know, be it metal or pop or rock or anything, right? Like, God, even like a lot of jazz fusion had that 80s huge sheen on it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So
Just you could always hear it in the snare drums. Just the most ridiculous snare sounds ever.
That like gated reverb snare. Yeah, exactly. And it's unfortunate because like you'll have some tunes that are just great tunes, but then just the production of you just hear things like that and you're like, oh my God.
Dude, you are speaking my language right now, man. There are so many songs like that from you where I'm like, dude, if this didn't have this over the top fucking Mutt Lang production, I would be all over it, but it just kills it for me.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. So,
also, Mutt Lang, if you're listening and you want to come on the show, is he even alive anymore? Anyway, I don't know. So we're going to spin The Guilt Behind the Truth at the end of the episode. It sounds fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
Is this going to be the debut of the track? Like, I guess I better preface by saying when this comes out because we're always in our time machine. But this is coming out July 6th on Patreon, 7th on Hypernova Radio, and 8th on other podcast platforms. Is this going to be the debut of the track?
So this would technically be the debut, yes.
Sweet.
So yeah, this will be first time hearing it. It'll be available on streaming services August 12th. And so yeah, if you hear it and you decide that you like it, there's definitely pre-save links available, and that just can find on our social medias at Faulty Rivals. But yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for letting me do that, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. So I thank you for spinning it on the show. Definitely appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure. And I wanted to make another kind of connection of guitar players here because, that vibe, the vibe that you're putting out with your music, it reminds me a lot of one of my favorite guitar players that I play with, Jeremy Pink. Do you know Jeremy Pink at all?
Yeah. So, I first met Jeremy when, actually, that was another Apricity show that we did. That was on the Guelph Radio.
Oh, CFRU. Right? That was you and Pink.
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
so,
man.
No, definitely, solid dude, solid guitar player. Yeah, for sure.
That's hilarious. I totally forgot that you and Pink did one together. That's see, it's a big tent, man. It's a big Apricity tent. That's funny.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys definitely have that a very similar I would say set of influences, but just a vibe with your music. And it's not that like it necessarily sounds similar, but it sounds like you guys kind of dig on the same stuff, and it's maybe that's why I like playing with both you guys. It's got to be it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, he's definitely a solid guitar player. I'd have to listen to a little more of his music. I think I've heard maybe a song or two. It might have been on this show, but yeah, I'll definitely have to listen to him more for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, eventually we're just going to have one great big huge band with like all the great players that have been in and out of the Apricity camp. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Can we get into the recording process at all of the album you did with Chris?
Sure. Yeah. So how this started, so this album, it definitely took quite a while to finish off, right? And part of it was just because of, things going on in my life, and then things going on in Alex's, and so it did kind of stretch out over the course of, a few years, just because we had time in between where, we had to put it on hold for a bit. But either way, we started recording just the drum tracks, where I started recording them with Alex. I think it was September, 2021. And just banged it out, all 8 or 9 songs within, I think, 4 or 5 hours or so. And yeah, just kind of slowly laying down, just laid down the rhythm guitars, the bass, all that stuff. think where we got held up is that I hadn't finished recording a lot of the vocals before we'd started recording the instruments, which in hindsight, that's definitely my bad, my fault. But so there's time just being taken just to really perfect it and try and get it sounding really good. I think part of it too is that I really wanted to have good vocal melodies for all the songs, right? That was something that I did get feedback on previous material, is that people like, people in press, like blogs and, radio stations and stuff. That was something that we did get feedback from them on, was saying like, well, the instrumentation's cool, but we're not like a huge fan of the vocals, right? So it was kind of, a hard pill for me to swallow, but at the same time, like it was like made me think, okay, well, is the problem my actual singing voice or is the problem the melodies? It's like, well, I don't really know, so I'm gonna just improve both, right? So that's I put a lot of time into trying to write good melodies for the songs, and I'd even taken singing lessons, to get to improve upon that, which funny enough, that's how I ended up meeting my wife. So it's so there's another great thing that happened from that. But that's pretty much kind of how it all went down. Is just I just got in there with Alex, and just recorded each of the instruments, one by one. And after Alex had moved to Quebec, Chris took over and helping record the vocals and stuff that were left over at that point. So cool. And he also did the reamping on it, so he got all the guitar tones.
Oh yeah, and he's like, he loves that stuff too, eh? He's so good at it. It's
oh, of course, yeah.
I totally forgot you started that album with Alex Snape.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah.
So you got both of them on it, and they work so well together, right? I mean, I think if I have my facts straight, I'm pretty sure Chris started kind of working under Alex, and then took Skaldic and did his own thing.
I believe that's true. Yeah. So, and then he's turned Skaldic into his own thing now, and he's definitely moved on to do some great projects under that studio, right?
Yeah, he's killing it. I mean, like, I used to rent that room with him, and Snape. Like, it's,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I moved downstairs, basically because I started sound teching a bunch, and, like, moving my PA up and down those stairs was gonna kill me one day. There's no question.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But I miss it up there, man. Like, it's just a good vibe. Like, it's just so much creativity going on up there.
Yeah, exactly. So there's definitely a lot of cool memories in that room, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, Chris is killing it. I mean, Nepenthe they're taking off. Like, everything seems to be going well for that dude, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Like, it's just great to see.
Oh, of course. Totally agree with that. Yeah. So.
Hell yeah. I have to ask you, man, how did that guitar swap event go at the Rock Pile?
It went pretty good. So, it's, fairly decent turnout for a Sunday, I mean, and, especially on Father's Day too, but, we still had some good people come out and, watch the bands and check out some of the vendors and all that stuff. I got to meet Tony, who was one of the promoters there. He had us there, and so that was also really nice. But yeah, we had a good show overall, and actually our friend John McGonigal from Jam VP came out and did some photography for us, and that was also great to see him as well. So yeah, it was good day overall.
Awesome. Yeah, shout out to John McGonigal. Like, just another just salt of the earth, just solid dude, man.
Of course.
And yeah, Tony's a good dude too, the promoter. We're just pumping everybody's tires today here on the Walk Show. But lucky for Koi and I is we're just surrounded by so many good people, and it's
of course
you gotta send the cred where it belongs, I guess.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I feel like I mixed up a couple different metaphors there, but you know how it is. Um, yeah, I was wondering how that show worked because it was like was it an actual guitar swap? Like there were vendors there, right?
Yeah. So it was like, yeah, it was like an all day event with vendors and stuff like that. And some people were like looking to swap gear, but then some people were just there to like sell their merchandise, whether like, some people were selling jewelry. Some people were selling, like homemade like signs and some people were selling like music memorabilia. It was all kinds of different things. So it's cool to just kind of check that all out, and yeah, good time.
Awesome. And yeah, killer venue too, man. Like it's I don't know, I talk about venues a lot on the show just because, well, we're kind of in and out of them all the time, and there's not a whole lot of great venues. I mean, especially guys like you and I, we got to play the Whiskey Go Go pretty recently, which is like one of the best venues I would say ever.
Of course, yeah.
So, then you come back to Canada and you play in like a portable or something. It's just like, it doesn't quite add up. But the Rock Pile is another top-notch venue. I feel like it would be perfect for something like that.
Yeah, no, yeah. The Rock Pile is definitely great. I always enjoy playing there. Great stage, great sound engineers to work with, so Rock Pile is definitely great venue for sure. I'd say some of the other just kind of venues in this kind of area two that definitely stand out to me that I like would also be Maxwell's in Waterloo.
Yes.
And then the Horseshoe Tavern in Toronto.
Yep.
So
yeah, Horseshoe's definitely another one of those iconic venues, man.
No, definitely. So
Maxwell's is great too. I've never played the big stage there though. I've only ever played the side stage.
Yeah, I mean me too. I've only played the side stage, but even on the side stage, it's still still pretty great there. So
oh yeah, sound is great. Yeah, and the fact that it can become sort of a smaller venue and then have the larger venue as well it's cool to have that adaptability, because then you can kind of book whatever band you want, as opposed to like not being able to book a smaller show in a bigger room. Because even if you have a good draw, like 80 people in a giant room feels like nobody's there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's and that's another great thing about it too, right? Is that it doesn't just host big acts, right? Like they also have opportunities for smaller bands to kind of come in and really hone in on that kind of local music scene, right? So it's definitely great for that.
Yeah, it's funny, I'm wearing my Rusty shirt because I saw them on their latest tour at Maxwell's, and it was packed, and it was so cool to see a big turnout for like an older kind of 90s Canadian alt rock band. They still have a huge fan base, and they still fucking ruled.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say enough about the KW music scene. Like in the past bunch of years now, it's just been top notch, man.
It's grown a lot, and I'm always very surprised at how much specifically the KW metal scene has grown, and how much how committed people are to it, and like it's hardly ever a bad turnout at a KW metal show, right? So, and that's something that I think is really cool too.
Totally, man. I mean, like, I'm not super familiar with KW metal shows, pardon me, but like I've done, I just did sound at the Long Weekend band crawl for Pink Lemonade, and more of a punk show, but really well attended. And and like a good diverse bill. I say punk, but that's a pretty big tent, So, so many different kinds of bands, and people support it. Like Pink Lemonade's out there doing their part. Everybody's doing their part, right? And that's sort of what it takes for any good music scene. It's obviously the person with the venue, but it's also that venue not trying to hose promoters by renting out for too much money, and good promoters and good bands and good fans, right? Like fans have a part to play in this as well. So it's good to see when it all comes together.
Oh, of course. Yeah, definitely agree with that for sure. So, I mean, even in Kitchener, another venue that's, I think has become a great contributor to the local music scene is the Union. And that they, actually have, they give more local bands that opportunity to perform. And another thing I just like about it is that they're all ages, so younger bands that are not of drinking age can come in and perform, and they can have their friends come out. And I think that's really just good for the youth to be a part of the local music scene.
Well, it's huge. I mean, and essentially that was the way the whole straight edge movement kind of started, right? Wasn't it just Minor Threat and just kids that were minors that couldn't get into shows, so they started their own DIY shows and it took off.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's great though.
I could totally have that wrong too, but I'm pretty sure that's how it happened. But so just getting into some more stuff that you're up to, you're teaching drums and guitar these days, right?
Yeah, so my student base, is kind of for the most part, it's half guitar, half drums. I mean, I have a couple of bass students as well, but
cool.
most of it is guitar and drums.
Very cool. Is there an instrument you prefer to play? And part B of that, is there an instrument you prefer to teach?
I'd say at the end of the day, the territory that I'm strongest in is probably guitar, right? And it's just that's why I put most of my time into really perfecting. But there's got to be something said for drums too, right? I always enjoy hopping behind the kit, and also just working with students on that as well. I just find that it's a little easier for me to nerd out on the guitar just because I just have a little more experience in it.
Fair enough, but I mean, your shit with a drum kit too, man. I mean, I saw the video you'd posted playing No One Knows. And I mean, dude, your Swiss triplets they're on fire, man. You know what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. So, yeah, it's definitely a fun song to play and great song for students to learn from.
Yeah, and I mean, playing Swiss triplets at that velocity, at that speed, it's not easy, right? It's one of those things where people kind of talk about Dave Grohl, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes, as this sort of caveman drummer, but he's certainly better than that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because it's, I know what you mean when people talk about it's caveman drummer, kind of basic or whatever, but it's so he definitely held back in Nirvana though.
Yeah.
Right. He definitely stripped it down, because if you listen to that Queens of the Stone Age album that he played on, his drumming is definitely, a lot more intricate. And it's just, on top of it, it's just super tight,
Yeah.
So, it's, I think that as great of a band Nirvana is, it doesn't necessarily showcase what his drumming skills actually are.
True. But I would say on the flip side of that, we know what Nirvana sounds like without him, and it definitely was not nearly as good. He had some really cool ideas, and they were very subtle, but pardon me, I'm just actually taking advantage of my cough button I just got. Seems to be working. But he's got these really subtle, cool ideas, particularly on In Utero.
Oh yeah, definitely agree with that. Yeah, he's one of those drummers where he was able to really add something to the music without it being complicated or overbearing in any kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Mhm.
just really, I don't know. It's weird to call Dave Grohl an underappreciated drummer, but like he's an underappreciated drummer to drummers, I think. Like it's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
think that's
drummers
fair.
will kind of sell him short.
Yeah, I think that's fair, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. That being said, they never should have got rid of fucking Josh Freese. Come on. Ugh.
Yeah. Was there any updates on why that happened?
I
Or
don't
was
think
it just,
so. It's weird. I wonder if there was something behind the scenes. Like I know some drummers, well, some members got ousted from their bands because they didn't want to get like vaccinated, stuff like that.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if there's something like that behind the scenes. Because I mean, technically speaking, you're not going to get a drummer in the rock umbrella that's better than Josh Freese. It's just
Yeah.
they don't exist.
So, yeah, I don't know. Who knows what happened with that then? But
Yeah, it's
it's
wild.
a shame.
It is. Yeah.
Mhm.
Are you looking for any students right now, or are you pretty much booked solid?
Right now, it's pretty full, right? I mean, things take a bit of a dip in the summer, but a lot of my students will be coming back in September. But I mean, I'm always kind of interested in taking on new students where it's possible, So, I mean, it's kind of like somewhat, but not like in desperate need of students, right? I guess that's kind of, so I'm always interested in taking on more, but it is a little busy right now. So, yeah.
That's cool. And are you
Mhm.
kind of selecting your students based on certain criteria, or will you kind of help whoever comes through the door?
Pretty much whoever comes through the door and just is looking for that kind of help, right? So I help students, who are absolute beginners and have never played before. I even have students now that I'm working with that are, I would almost consider on a more advanced level, and they're just looking for new ideas and new things to learn, right? So it's I work with a wide range of students for sure.
That's cool. And yeah, it's
Mhm.
something like it's like my kryptonite, man. I mean, I got back into teaching a little bit, but I'm very, very selective because I've just had such bad luck with students just not going over the material, and you spend so much time trying to personalize your lesson plan based on their favorite bands and the direction they want to go in, and then they end up just not even doing it. So I went through a long time of just like, I'm done teaching, the hell with teaching.
Mhm.
Slowly trying to get back into it, but I'm so picky that I'm like the world's poorest drum teacher. Like I'm not making any money doing it because I'm not kind of taking anybody, right? So I feel like there's just two ways you can look at that. It's like, do you want to be of service to the community, or do you want to be a snob like me and just broke?
Well, you know what though, I definitely do get where you're coming from with it though. As much as I've have students that are super dedicated to it, and they put in a lot of time to really practice their craft and all that. I've also had students where it's they don't really do it. They kind of like the last time that they played was the last lesson,
Yeah.
and so yeah, sometimes it does feel a bit unmotivating, I guess, to have that, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's their choice on how far they want to go with it, right? So,
Well, exactly. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, right?
mhm,
Well, and that's the other thing with drums is like everyone has their own why.
mhm,
And to me, like I'm not super picky on the why, so long as it's the what. Like it's the, are you going to practice? It's the where the rubber meets the road kind of thing for that really determines whether I'm excited to teach or not.
mhm.
I will say the one person I have been teaching recently has been Jim Rilling, awesome Jim. Shout out to awesome Jim. And he's motivated to learn things. So it's been super, like, it just reinvigorates your love for the instrument when you can pass that knowledge on to somebody that's genuinely excited, to improve their craft,
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, definitely. So I definitely agree with that. It's definitely rewarding to have when you have like working with students who are excited to be there and are working really hard at it. And even when it's like you have a student that you're working with and they're struggling with something for a while, and then there's just like that like aha kind of moment, and then all of a sudden it starts to just kind of click and tie together. I find things like that very motivating as well.
Yeah. Well, and just also
Mhm.
the concept of just having even just like a one-off lesson. Like,
Mhm.
I took a lesson with one of my drum heroes. His name is Lorenzo Buda. He's a Guelph guy, and he taught me so much when I was cutting my teeth, that I still milk the hell out of these days. Like particularly a lot of tom snare flams. I pretty
Mhm.
much live by them, and that was all Lorenzo. So I took one lesson with him. I feel like a month or two ago now, and I'm still kind of chewing on the stuff. And it's not even like we went over a lot of stuff, but just like seeing that guy play and just like how
Mhm.
how freaking good he is. I'm trying not to swear too much on the show. Um, but just to see it, like you're like, okay, this is possible. I'm watching this sort of magic happen right in front of me,
Mhm.
and just absorbing that and just trying to implement it into the way that I play.
Mhm.
I feel like was worth way more than like 10 lessons with sort of drummer A at whatever store. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of
Yeah.
picking the right person. Um, Sometimes even just one lesson can keep you going for a while. Sorry, that was a
Oh, of
tangent.
course. That's totally fine. Yeah. I would say I agree with that too though, right? Like I mean, um you don't always need to have like weekly lessons, you know. Sure, I think that's great when you're starting out, and you're especially if you're trying to build the habit of playing, I think it's never a bad idea to have that sort of thing, but when you're at more of that advanced level and it's like you're already built the habit of playing, you're already into it, there's a lot that you can get from just having a one-off lesson with just, a particular teacher, and just applying what you learn in that lesson because yeah, that could sustain you for months potentially.
Totally. And even just
Mhm.
talking about drums or whatever instrument it happens to be, can be huge too. I mean, one of my older teachers, my friend Matt Connell, who was in Exhumed and he was in Fuck the Facts. Like he was in
Mhm.
a killer death metal grind drummer,
Yeah.
and just a philosopher. He could talk to you for days about technique and posture and why you're doing these things. And
Mhm.
yeah, even that I found so incredibly helpful over the years. And obviously killer drum teacher as well. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's just something about just being around talent just ups your game.
Oh yeah, totally. Definitely agree with that, and yeah, it's who you surround yourself with, it really kind of rubs off on you. So if you're lucky enough to surround yourself with talented people who are very motivated, then, you'll definitely, it'll definitely rub off on you as well. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
mhm.
always my goal to be like the dumbest guy in the room and the least talented guy in the room. And
Mhm.
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good at it, I gotta say. Um, how can people enlist your services if they did want to talk to you about lessons?
So there's two ways. So they could reach out to me via, social media such as like Instagram or something like that. I have just at Koi Getson Music, so at KOIGETSON Music. That's one way they can message me. The other way is that because I do teach through Sherwood Music, they can always go to the Sherwood Music website, and to click on the lessons section in there to set up lessons with me. They can also reach out to Vanessa, who's our lessons coordinator. Is that lessons at sherwoodsystems.com. So any of those three ways would work. Definitely, and yes, definitely doable. No, I know I did say, like the schedule is pretty full, but that's more schedule is pretty full for weekly lessons. If there's somebody who's listening, is just like, I just want to have like one or two like lessons just to kind of touch base on where I'm at and give me a few things to sustain me for a little while. I'm totally open to that sort of thing as well, right? So just throwing that out there. But yeah, that would be the best way for sure.
Excellent. And yeah, I do have to put a pin in it pretty soon, although I could do this all day, man. It's great catching up with you.
Of course.
I ask the listeners a question every episode. I like to get my guest take as well. Because this show isn't live to air, we're always kind of in our time machine. So this will air after Canada Day. But today's listener question is, how are you celebrating Canada Day this year?
So on actual Canada Day, I will be at work at my day job. But either way, tomorrow I have the day off. So I figure me, my wife and daughter will do something nice for the day. And then, maybe after work on Tuesday, we'll go see something, like see some fireworks or something like that. So nothing too exciting for me, but at least grateful to be able to spend some time with my family.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And that sounds perfect. I mean, other than the work part, I guess, but got to keep the lights on somehow.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anyone you want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to?
I mean, I could give a whole list of people. But I'm just gonna say all the people that I've worked with on the, upcoming single, as well as, the upcoming albums. That'd be Alex Snape and Chris Rowan, Jamie King for mastering.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Cool.
He's great. Yeah. Let's see. Jane Davidson Snyder, she did the artwork for the single. As well as Leanna Tonight, who did the artwork for the CD cover, which will be coming out in, a few months or so. And John McGonagall, as we already mentioned, he's doing a video for the song. So he's putting a lot of work with that. And that's all I can think of for now. Yeah. But at least wanted to give a shout out to all of them. And, yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Now we talked a little bit about it, but give a plug for the band sites too. Like, how can people check out everything you're doing online?
So I do post updates on my own social media. Like I said, Koi Getson Music. That's on Instagram, TikTok, things like that. But for the band Faulty Rivals, specifically all of our social media, whether that be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, it's all just at Faulty Rivals, FAULTYRIVALS. We are working on a website right now. So when that comes live, that will just be faultyrivals.com. Yeah, all that can be found online. We have a link tree as well, but that's in all of our link in bios, so if you find us on social media, you'll be able to find every other link through that too.
Perfect. And yeah, I'll post all that stuff up on my socials as well. So listeners, just keep your eyes peeled to the Walk Show socials for all that good stuff. The last thing I do is spin two tunes. First up is Faulty Rivals with The Guilt Behind the Truth, the debut, followed by today's double feature Preacher artist Make Fire with Ghost. Koi, dude, always great catching up. Thanks so much for your time, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great being here.
Hey, my pleasure. We got to do it again sometime, man. When we start our 12 projects we've talked about starting over the time we've been hanging out. To the listeners, thank you so much for your time. Catch you next time.
living inside of you.
Many nights I've gone sleepless now, forcing myself to give in to the undertow. I'm learning how to allow myself the freedom of pain, 'cause it's all that's left since you stole from me. The only thing that I ever thought could save me from sinking below the surface and drowning in the ocean of black dreams and tearing in my own seams. Don't seem like you believe that I'm worth saving. Feels like my heart became dead since you compared me to hell. Am I wrong for feeling no longer human now? I'm trapped in my skin because I'll never again. No longer close, 'cause I'm not his ghost. Well, I've been searching for anything to keep me from panicking. The bottle's as empty as the things you said to me. And what I hate the most is how much you push and pull